I really find it quite frightening the way disadvantage impacts on outcome and impacts on experience. I remember, first being aware of, the patterns of different achievement for different groups of students, and thinking, oh, this is really interesting. Here's some numbers that make sense to me. And then as I, was involved in research for the Social Mobility Commission, and as I looked deeper myself, I saw more and more the fact that it's about individual circumstances, and it's about patterns in the community, and it's about complex relations of history and economics and place and politics. And I think one of the impulses we often have is to kind of have a vision of what we think school is or what we think society is, and go, well, that's how it should be. Not for any particular reason, but just because that's how it should be. And one of my favourite anecdotes on that is that in the 40s, there was a bunch of men in suits in Whitehall, probably smoking pipes, who sat down to decide on the funding formula for universities and thought about how many people should go to university. And they literally plucked a figure out of the air, and they said, oh, this is probably about 3%, I think. That's the people who are clever enough to go to university. And then, 40 years later, Tony Blair similarly, arbitrarily, plucks a figure of 50% out. Yeah. And we can fight between those poles, but we have to recognize on some level that both are fluid and arbitrary markers. Yeah. There isn't a natural state of how many people achieve, how many people have this job, it's fluid. And I think the thing that's very, very difficult when we look at these questions nowadays, a lot of the debate around education centers around the idea of 21st century skills. How do we move forward? How do we teach kids for jobs that don't even exist yet? I think it's actually a much bigger problem than that. It's how do we build a society when we don't even know what society will work?